Good morning, everybody. Well, it's afternoon. I already botched the first line. 12:15 Eastern. We are in the midst of Super Wildcard Weekend or whatever they're calling it now. Regardless, we have the Super NFL Pre-Lock Show here. I'm the Luch. It's good to be back. Justin Carlucci here, alongside of my guy Tuttle, who's always prepared and full of hot takes. What's going on, Dan? Good to see you again, man.
Yeah, good to see you, man. I told you and Christy pre-show and Eli that did not realize I was on the schedule until about 15 minutes ago when Eli sent out the email. That's fine though. I mean, I've been building lineups all morning anyway, so I'm well prepared for it. Just wasn't aware that I was going to be doing a show. That's all.
Sometimes those are the most organic takes when you're not over on information overload for a show. So that'll be fun. Always a pleasure working with you. And Christy, good to see you again. It's been a while since the three of us, I think, were on a Sunday pre-lock show. So are you enjoying Wildcard Weekend?
I am. Yes, it's great. I know it's been a few weeks since we've all been together, but it's always good to do the hot takes and break everything down with you guys. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, a cool little 3-game slate. Plenty of different ways you can attack this thing. Just a reminder, we are in the live stream Discord the live stream channel on Discord. We're no longer on YouTube. So if you want to pop in some questions, we will get them in the second half of the show, or just want to come in and say hi, hang out with us, feel free to do so. We appreciate all of you tuning in. Shout out to Eli, who is producing this bad boy here. And just before we get going here, some promo stuff to take care of. Big news in the industry this month is sports betting is finally for good legal, hope knocking on wood here, legal in the state of New York. So big win. Shout out to all of our DFS friends and family who had to travel across borders to place bets and things like that in New Jersey. I guess I'm spoiled. We've been spoiled here in Pennsylvania. I have like access to a dozen different books from the comfort of my couch. So big win for the industry. Love to see that. And of course, Rotogrinders has all the info you need. There's a link for the description, or go to Rotogrinders homepage and check out the sports betting tab and click on New York. So you can find a nice list in one area of all the many different promos and offers that all these books are going to be pushing out. First deposits, new users, a lot of cool things. I mean, we're talking about many books offer free bets, deposit bonuses, things you want to take advantage of. And there's not a better time to get more involved right now than the wildcard weekend. BetMGM, if you're looking for a different book or you're not familiar with BetMGM, I've been saying this one a lot this year. That's because BetMGM is fantastic. Use the bonus code GRINDERSBET. That's all one word, GRINDERSBET. Bet $10 to get $200 instantly if your team scores a touchdown. Of course, definitely check out Rotogrinders Premium if you're not with us. Ton of great premium content, showdown articles, premium audio and video, the whole 9 yards. RG Premium, customizable packages. Get $10 off your first month, and the link will be dropped in the chat. And of course, our daily fantasy football podcast feed, ton of fun. Break everything from food for thought, a quick reset button. We had a great guest last week with the DK Best Ball 555 winner who lived 10 minutes for me, and I had no idea. So that was pretty cool to have him on. And of course, as the week goes on, we have a lot of analytics and the whole nine you need to be prepared for. Football Sundays and everything else. Of course, I'll be back on later to talk NBA. There is actually basketball today. As much as I'll be invested with football, we will talk some hoops later. But without further ado, let's get into this thing. And 3 games, we'll do a position by position thing, and then I'm looking forward to hopefully getting some strategy questions for tournaments and things like that, because 2 and 3 game slates, you have to find ways to try to be a little bit different, and it's not always comfortable, but we'll get there. So God bless you if you're playing cash on a 3-game slate, but I'm sure some people are. I'm probably not. So I will ask, you guys about cash and tournament options still, I think. So, Christy, we'll start with you first and talk to me about quarterback. Obviously, there's only 3 games. So there's 6 quarterbacks in whatever capacity you think Trey Lance might be involved in, some gimmicky stuff maybe. So what are you looking at for quarterbacks for optimal cash and maybe some tournament looks?
Yeah, I'll start maybe with, optimal and some of the cash lineups. And I think Dak Prescott really fits the build for that. He's 6,700 on DraftKings and 8K on FanDuel. So I think he makes a lot of sense if you are playing cash games, like Luch said. But then, getting into, tournaments, Mahomes, it'll be interesting to see where his ownership is. We have him at 33% right now, it looks like. but he's obviously a great play. He'll be in the evening game tonight, so have a ton of interest in him. The lower owned guy out of the group we're looking maybe at Brady out of the top three there. And I have a ton of interest in him. We were talking a little bit beforehand, really like Gronk this week. And there's so many good tight ends that I certainly love getting some Brady stacks in there. Probably one of my favorite GPP plays on the slate. And then of course you have guys like Jalen Hurts. I mean, he has a ton of rushing upside. He's priced pretty well too at 6,100. Garoppolo too allows you a lot of savings, but for me, I'm kind of thinking, Dak is really a good cash game play. And then for me, I have most interest in tournaments on Brady and Mahomes.
Yeah, I like it. Tuttle, what are your thoughts here? What are you rolling with today? Anything sticking out to you?
Yeah, nothing too dissimilar from what Christy said. I have Dak as my main quarterback in cash, and I'm also looking at running him in tournaments. I do worry a little bit that he's going to be he's so easy to stack with all his top weapons on DraftKings specifically that I do worry about ownership a little bit there. Might be a little bit difficult to get more unique. So I think if you're going that route, you might have to play maybe some single digit owned guys, which I do think there are a couple that you can pull off that we'll get into later at other positions. But I like Dak a lot. I really do think him, Mahomes, and Brady are all very similar plays, but he's just the cheaper one, and he allows you to really construct your lineup how you want it. We talked a little bit pre-show about some of our love for Giovanni Bernard and how we just think the Bucs game plan in general is going to be just drop back to pass. Obviously, there's some win concerns in that game, but I still think that is going to be their approach, even if it's just kind of shorter throws. I really think that's going to be, Brady dropping back, even if it's only, dump offs to Gio or quick passes to Gronk, something like that. And perhaps people are undervaluing Brady a tiny bit. We have him coming in as the third highest projected in terms of ownership. So I think he's a fine tournament option. And then of the low owned guys, I do think Hurts has the highest upside. I don't love it, but maybe he gets the 100-yard bonus rushing, rushes for a touchdown. And honestly, if that's all he does, anything he throws in passing wise would just be an added bonus. Obviously, that's a huge ask. But the Bucs have been susceptible to running quarterbacks this year. I want to say they're top 5 in terms of rushing yards allowed to opposing quarterbacks on the ground. So there is some upside there for Hurts. I think he is the option if you're looking to get weird in tournaments.
Yeah, with 3 games, it's much simpler to try to peg outcomes of all 3 of them, as a slate. So, Dak, I just have a hard time. Like every time I try to buy in with this guy, I get, maybe it's poor recency bias. I don't know, but sure, he destroyed the Eagles backups through 5 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns against the football team who, is terrible defensively, and played all right against Arizona, didn't even crack 240, 250 passing yards. Before that, it's been a while. We didn't see good Dak for a while, and whatever the case may be. The Niners secondary is held together with duct tape. The front 7 is really good. I think it's going to come down to protecting Dak, and that might dictate, his projection, whether we see a median projection or maybe more of a ceiling game. But I'm glad you brought up Hurts and these cheaper options. Even Garoppolo, I'm willing to throw in there. And we know Garoppolo doesn't have a super ceiling realistically. But if it's a slate where there's really no ceiling games, you can definitely make a case for playing not only Hurts, but I think Garoppolo. Nothing against Roethlisberger, but I'm just not going there. On a slate where, if no one cracks 25 points and Garoppolo gets you, 21, 22, if you nail the rest of your ceiling guys, if you're playing like a 3 max, I think, you can take the savings there and maybe pay up. And it's not my favorite, but you guys mentioned Dak, and I think that game has not only the best chance to be the best game of the week, but maybe the best chance to be a shootout on both sides. Out of all the projected losers, the Niners have the highest team total, and I think that's kind of important. I'm comparing apples to oranges here, but we saw the Bills put up a 50 bomb, and outside of Kendrick Bourne, who kind of splashed late, there was nobody really optimal on the New England side of things. I mean, that was just a totally so I think total game environment. I think that Niners game has a chance to be the most competitive, and there could be some points there. Yeah, and I think Brady might be going a little bit overlooked too. Despite the win, I mean, we still have a very high team total, and Brady's going to hit those intermediate routes anyway. It's not like it's Randy Moss, Tom Brady, prime days. So we'll get the running back, and I think we'll have some good conversation here. Najee up at 66. It's so funny breaking down the slate where the highest priced running back is 6,600 on the team with the lowest implied projected total, and the guy doesn't come off the field and he doesn't fumble. He was banged up a little bit this week, but it looks like he is good to go. So you have Najee all the way up at the top. And, it's funny, the top two backs, there's some, I guess some cause for concern. I don't think Najee can get scripted out of this game because of what he does in the backfield and out of the backfield, catching passes and the dinks and dunks. But a lot of people are probably going to be hesitant to play Zeke, and he's coming in below 25%. And it's been a strange year for him, going up against a gauntlet of a front seven. And of course, everyone talks about Fred Warner. So I think there are a ton of running backs in play today, and there are a couple guys that are projected to come in at very high ownership. So Christy, who's your top play at running back today?
Yeah, it is interesting there. And I think there's a couple guys in there that, certainly make some good tournament plays for us that we can get at lower ownership. But I do have a lot of interest in Darrell Williams. I mean, once we, got word that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is out, he certainly popped up there and is our highest projected running back for the week on both sites. And I certainly like that play a ton. I think he can catch a lot of passes, and he just does a lot in that offense. So certainly agree there. The part that I think that we'll get maybe a little bit different, we talked a little bit pre-show too, is Keyshawn Vaughn. He's sitting there very, very cheap on both prices. We have him at 44% projected ownership. We talked a little bit about, you've got Giovanni Bernard there. I mean, 6% ownership. I think he makes a fantastic pivot. He's at 4K. So you don't have to invest much in him. He catches a lot of passes as well. So I think he's definitely a sneaky tournament play. So, I mean, that's certainly a good pivot maybe from Vaughn. Also like Eli Mitchell a ton too. It's weird to see at his price at just 5,700. But if that game stays competitive, he's going to be getting a ton of touches. You have to worry a little bit about Debo, but Eli has certainly always came in a little under owned this past year. You mentioned Zeke too. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of a touchdown or bust option, and he certainly had Pollard in the mix too, but getting him at 20% ownership on a slate like this, he's certainly worth taking a shot or two on and getting him in your lineups, even with Dak, just to make it a little bit different too. So certainly don't mind that. Miles Sanders too, tougher matchup, and he certainly has to compete for carries now too, with Howard and Scott in the mix, but he certainly makes a good GPP play. But I think if you're looking for cash, you're certainly looking at Williams and Mitchell and Keyshawn Vaughn. I think those are the guys that you're looking at. And then, getting different, maybe consider going to, Giovanni Bernard or Zeke or even Miles Sanders.
And just to segue into Tuttle's thoughts here, I think like that touchdown might be baked into some of that projection for Zeke. I just think it's going to be tough sledding, and I think that's why Dak projects pretty well using our Gridiron IQ tool here at Rotogrinders, which I love. Out of the 12 active playoff teams this weekend, Dallas runs the second most zone run at the worst success rate. And San Fran is the second best zone run defending team. I mean, from the naked eye and the macro perspective, you think San Fran's good against the run. Well, specifically the zone run here. I think Tony Pollard's super interesting if the game breaks the right way here. And these small slates, we see the RB2s popping optimals, for tournaments every so often. Would I play Pollard in cash? No, not today. With the Darrell Williams ownership is coming in around 60%. And I think, I think you can make a good case for eating that chalk. There's got to be chalk somewhere. He's a great play and a great matchup. So Tuttle, talk to me here. Keyshawn Vaughn, super highly projected to come in very high. And anything else that comes to mind here at running back.
Yeah, I mean, the realization I had when Christy was talking, and it's not like some crazy revolution, so I don't know why I didn't realize this before. But Zeke has to be pretty easily the top leverage running back. Like even like you kind of just made the case against him, and I agree. I don't like playing Zeke, but I think on DraftKings he pretty easily has to be the top leverage play, just because I do think that Dallas passing attack is going to be so highly owned. I think it makes sense to, if you're not playing any Dallas receivers in your lineup or Dak, to potentially get a piece of Zeke, because that game is expected to be high scoring and they're going to get points somehow. You mentioned Keyshawn Vaughn. So I don't know if these concerns are illegitimate, and I could completely just be making this narrative up in my head, but Bruce Arians is such like an old school hard-headed guy. Like, he's going to go with his vets. So I really do think Giovanni Bernard's going to get, I don't expect Bernard to get in there and start grinding in between the tackles or anything like that. I just think the play calls are going to be, hey, we're dropping back, we're in shotgun, we're going to throw the ball, which would limit Vaughn's production and workload. Projections aren't going to tell you that, though. Projections are going to say Keyshawn Vaughn's the best RB value on the slate, or one of the best RB values on the slate. I just do think there's ways he gets phased out. So he has me concerned for sure. He would be somebody I'd still be fine taking shots at if I thought the ownership was going to be low, but I don't think it's going to be. We're showing 34% on DraftKings. I think he's going to come in higher on that. I think he's going to come in closer to 50%. I think we're probably a little bit hot on Najee Harris, and that will switch some things around a little bit in terms of ownership. So I'm against Vaughn in tournaments, but that is, again, under the assumption that he's probably going to be closer to 50%, and that assumption, I guess, could definitely be wrong. So Vaughn, I don't like. Mitchell, he's the guy that's really tough for me to figure out. I'm not playing cash games. I'll fully disclose that. I'm playing just one tournament lineup on DraftKings today. If I was playing cash games, I would do what I can to get Eli Mitchell in my lineups over Keyshawn Vaughn. I think Darrell Williams is pretty easily the RB1 for cash games. And Mitchell would be the guy that I'm trying to get to. I think Mitchell's workload is just significantly safer. I do have upside concerns about Eli Mitchell, which is kind of why I don't love him all that much for tournaments at expected ownership again. We've obviously seen him put some solid games up. My mind or my brain just has a tough time with guys like Eli Mitchell, who will get the touches, but he typically not involved as a pass catcher. Obviously siphons or gets running back touches siphoned away from him by Deebo Samuel, especially in valuable areas of the field, in the red zone, things like that. So I really do think, unless Mitchell scores a touchdown today, I think he's probably going to be a dud. And so, again, I think he's a better / safer play for cash games, but I'm still fine fading him in tournaments as well. So Darrell Williams is really the only chalk running back that I like in all formats. And then at RB2, I'm kind of just looking to get different, basically.
Lots of good stuff there. And Giovanni Bernard is active this week for the first time since week 14. So he was brought in to be the James White. And, he had a one game that he popped earlier this season, missed a lot of time. And part of this was Ronald Jones was healthy, and Leonard Fournette was not only healthy, but really developed as a pass catcher. So that change of pace guy wasn't necessary. Now there's no Fournette. There's no Ronald Jones. I like taking a couple shots at Bernard too. You're going to be super different. And the last couple of weeks, if Vaughn was going to be trusted and targeted in that role, he would have been. What do you have? 3 or 4 total targets the last 2 weeks, and a game where Brady was putting the pedal down. So I'm with you. I'm a little concerned about Vaughn. Could he dump one in? Sure. And be fine. Absolutely. But I'm kind of sharing the same tournament thoughts with you. That being said, my style is, if I'm playing cash, and I'm not either, but if I see a running back coming in at 40+%, I'm just going to play him, because that's what I do. So I don't mind him for cash, but I'm kind of looking at Bernard for tournaments as well. Anyway, 12:35 Eastern, we will get to questions then. A lot to talk about at wide receiver. We're expecting a lot of studs on this slate, especially at tight end, which we'll get to. But the receiver position is not short of talent either. And, it starts with some of the Kansas City guys and Debo and San Fran. And of course, Amari, CeeDee Lamb, Cedric Wilson's in the mix now without Michael Gallup. A lot of ways to build here, Christy. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, you're exactly right. There are a lot of different ways to build and a lot of ways to get a little bit different too. CeeDee Lamb, of course, is checking in at the highest owned. His price is obviously very good on both sites. Tyreek Hill as well. He his price has really come down. So you're looking at those are the two highest owned receivers on the slate, and certainly like both of those two. So for cash games, I think Lamb is probably the guy that you want to look at. Tyreek is interesting. On one hand, he's got this heel injury and, not sure how that's going to impact him today. So he could make an interesting fade if you think he's still a little bit banged up there because of his high ownership. But again, his price point is very good. We also have Devontae Smith up there too in that Bucks game. I kind of prefer Goddard a little bit when we get to the tight ends, but Smith is projecting very well for his price point. And then you get into some of the other, high-end guys too. Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel, I think, is a very interesting tournament play. He is the most expensive receiver on the slate. And, I think he's one of the best plays on the slate too, just because he can do so much. I mean, he can throw it, he's rushing, he's catching passes. So a lot of value there. I like even pivoting to him instead of Tyreek in some of the tournament lineups too. So like that guy a lot. It'll be interesting too with some of the Pittsburgh guys because Juju is back and he's min priced, and will be interesting to see how that shakes out. He is carrying some ownership, about 12% ownership there for Juju, 3K on DraftKings and min priced 4,500 on FanDuel too. So he's certainly an option. And I think, then the way to get different are guys like, Cedric Wilson. I like taking shots on him. He has, had a few touchdowns here the last few weeks and has been in the mix with Gallup out and such. So, a guy like him, even then Brashard Perryman and Tyler Johnson, I think Brady has, he has shown too, he will find some other guys too, especially with no AB and no Godwin. Gronk obviously will be a focus, but I like taking a couple of shots on those guys too. So I think Lamb is your guy for cash, and then, getting a little bit different. I'm probably higher than the field on guys like Deebo Samuel today.
Yeah, good stuff. Tuttle, throw it over to you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I do think your decision on Juju kind of shapes the slate a little bit, like how much you think he's going to play. Because if this is a guy that we think is going to just, head on and resume his normal role, he's obviously underpriced, even for a team that we don't expect to do a whole lot. 3K for Juju is just ridiculous. I'm a little cautious that he does that, so I'm not overly exposed to him or anything, but I do think it makes sense to take some sort of stance on him. Either whether that be super aggressive that he's going to return to a full role, and you kind of up your ownership in that sense, or you just kind of fade him and think that he's going to be, on the field very sparingly. So I do think you want to kind of make a hard stance on Juju in tournaments and figure out from there. I don't have anything super strong in terms of takes other than what Christy said. I mean, I like all the top guys. I'm not concerned, and maybe this is wrong. I'm not concerned about Tyreek Hill's heel injury. I like him a lot, but again, he's high owned, so that's nothing crazy. I will say I think the biggest case you could make against high owned guys are CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. I mean, CeeDee hasn't done much of anything. And I know because I keep playing him, and he keeps doing nothing for me and keeps making me lose money. I think theoretically he's a good play. I think you could make the argument if you want to do the hands in the dirt thing and where you're watching film and say, hey, Cedric Wilson playing slot snaps is not good for CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee, when he's had success this season, has been out of the slot, which is why we typically like it when Michael Gallup plays, because then CeeDee can move to the slot and play there more often. Cedric Wilson has been that guy, and Cedric Wilson will play the slot snaps and kind of limit CeeDee's time in the slot. I have CeeDee Lamb in lineups. I'm playing him still, but that's kind of just the devil's advocate against him. If he hasn't played well, and you could attribute that to potentially being because he hasn't been spending a lot of the time in the slot. So I think that's my main take is if you're looking to fade some of these higher owned guys, I would probably start with the Dallas guys. And again, the other thing, I think we'll probably see Cedric Wilson higher owned than what we have projected. But just looking at it, it's like I keep telling myself, because I keep trying to come off of Cedric Wilson, but it's like, why am I paying $2,000 more for CeeDee Lamb than Cedric Wilson. Like, what? It's very hard for my brain to justify that. So I do think if you want to get exposure to the passing attack for Dallas, you don't have to do it through the high price guys. Cedric Wilson's completely fine.
Covered a lot of good ground there. And some people are straight projection, straight analytical. Some people don't use optimizers or projections and are straight up hand in the dirt. And some people take a little bit of both. And I think it's fair to combine some things you see or think X's and O's wise with your favorite source of projections, which I'm hoping is Lineup HQ and what we do at Rotogrinders. Combine all your resources and your tools and make some money. Tight end is absolutely loaded. Listen, I can make a lot of the same cases at wide receiver as you guys did. Juju is certainly interesting. I do think one of these Tampa Bay cheapies are interesting too. Do you want to stick your hand in the dirt again and say Darius Slay might play well against Mike Evans? Sure. Go ahead. Tyler Johnson has seen a lot of looks from Brady. Hasn't really had the production, but the targets have been there. Brashard Perryman's the vet. We're going to go back. I don't know. Like, that's a coin flip for me. Probably see similar volume. I don't know, but I do like Gronk quite a bit. I'll segue there and I'll throw it over to Christy because I know you were talking about Gronk earlier today a little bit.
Yeah, Gronk is probably my favorite tight end play on the slate. And, right now we have him at 12% ownership. And, if that's true, that's great. I mean, he has a huge upside on this slate. And another thing that we were talking about too, and, not sure how contrarian this will be, but I absolutely love the builds that I have with double tight end this week. I did a little bit of that last week too. And, every now and then it just fits together perfectly, but there's so many great plays out there today. So you've got Kelsey at the top, who is obviously fantastic play. But then you've also got, we talked about Gronk, but then you throw in Dallas Goedert, who projects very, very well. He's the best receiver in that offense. And, I like a lot of builds where I've got Gronk and Goddard in there. So you're paying up for one and spending down for the other. And then you throw guys in there too, like George Kittle. He's priced right. And, when we've seen the upside on him, so the ceiling is obviously huge. We have him at under 20%. So I think he's a fantastic play today too. And then, looking to save a little bit of money too, Dalton Schultz will most certainly go a little overlooked. We like that Dallas game and, talked about some of the concerns earlier with CeeDee Lamb not playing not playing all that great lately, but you have a guy like Schultz that has, 2 touchdown upside too, at 5% ownership. That's fantastic. One other thing I'll throw out there too is Cameron Brate. Don't like playing the guy, but he's 2,800 on DraftKings. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see him get a touchdown in there too. And I mean, you could really get a unique build and, get both Gronk and Brate in there. And then, if you're looking to save money too, I don't mind Pat Freiermuth, but there's also a lot of receiving options now in that Pittsburgh lineup, especially with Juju back. So to me, Gronk is probably my favorite play on the slate. I think Kelsey maybe fits more of the cash game builds. Kelsey and Goddard do. But yeah, Gronk and Kittle are some great tournament plays out there.
Totally agree. Kittle, decent spot. Could be a great bounce back. Hasn't done much for you lately kind of spot. Dallas giving up the 4th most fantasy points to tight ends in 2021. And across the last 4 weeks, they're giving up the 3rd most. So that's kind of staying in the course there. So I like the spot for Kittle. And we know if something's working with Kittle, Jimmy will lock on to him too. That's, he won't take his eyes off Kittle. If it works early in Shanahan's little script where Garoppolo flourishes, I worry after the scripted first drive and a half, what happens to Garoppolo? Tuttle, talk to me about tight end.
Yeah, not a ton to add. I think if you're like looking to get a little weird and you want to do the tight ends versus Philadelphia thing, Cam Brate has a chance at a touchdown. Like maybe he scores a touchdown, maybe he gets you 20, 30 yards, and that's enough for him to end up in optimal lineups because he's so cheap on DraftKings specifically. So I think, there's some reason to think Cam Brate could be an okay play. OJ Howard would be like the real thin version of the Cam Brate play. I'm much more confident on Brate actually getting on the field. And they have been using him in the red zone a little bit more lately as well. I think 2 touchdowns in the last 3 games. But on the high end, it's the same stuff for me. Love Gronkowski, love Kelsey. Kittle's the one I'm a little bit more hesitant on, but again, is probably the one you could say makes for a good tournament option. The floor for Kittle is disgusting, which is what we've seen lately. And I've seen some speculation, more of the hand in the dirt guys saying their O-line is in such shambles right now that he just has to block more often than he has at the beginning of the season. And of course, they're just more fully healthy as well. So that limits opportunities when they have Debo, Ayuk, and everyone else running around and catching passes. So high end for me, it's Gronk and Kelsey, and I don't mind playing both of them in the same lineup for sure.
Yeah, I think Gronk's in a sneaky spot too. Should see a ton of volume. I don't know. Defense is, what are you supposed to say? You can see who's carrying ownership: Kansas City, Tampa Bay. You can make a case to punt anybody on this slate. Probably some people just punt defense entirely, and I can't argue with that approach. So. Let's see. Let's get to some questions in the chat. I was kind of keeping tabs as we were going here. The first one I had was is a DK Cash question. Tuttle, it's Le'Veon or Keyshawn Vaughn for DK Cash.
It's Vaughn over Bell for sure. Bell's the guy that could get. So if Vaughn actually has a role, Bell would be the guy that I'd be worried about being completely phased out, and I would have almost no interest in playing him. Remember, this is a guy that they could have signed if they really wanted him at the beginning of the season, and then he couldn't latch on to a team that is playing Latavius Murray and Devontae Freeman. Like, I think Le'Veon Bell is just complete dust, and in an optimal world, they just won't play him. We'll see if that happens or not, but yeah, he would be a guy I'd be extremely worried about just not getting snaps now that Bernard's healthy.
Okay, let's see here. We have some time. Christy, do you have a different take on that, or are you on the same thoughts?
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. And I think, Vaughn is definitely the cash game guy this week. Just kind of put him in there and move on.
Okay. Let's see. Single entry DK. It's CeeDee Lamb or Deontay Johnson. He said either decision would complement a secondary stack. Tuttle, Lamb, a.k.a. your money pit, or Deontay Johnson?
Yeah, I think Deontay. Yeah. Okay. I have too much Lamb and it's going to end poorly. And I think Lamb just keeps projecting extremely well. But if you have the money to get to Deontay, I think he's the better option.
I agree.
Okay. Favorite GPP contrarian quarterback on FanDuel. And we spent a lot of time on DK today. The FanDuel pricing, you have Mahomes at 87, Brady at 84, Dak at 8K, Jalen Hurts at 77. Pretty close to Dak there, which will probably end up taking a cut on his ownership as well. And Garoppolo at 68 and Ben at 64. I think you can make a case for Jalen or Garoppolo, but I kind of like the thought of, we talked about Hurts' ceiling, maybe just overpaying a little bit for Jalen Hurts in respect to his salary sneaking up on the Dak range there. Christy, you got any thoughts on quarterback?
That's exactly what I was thinking. I like his rushing upside, and because he's priced so closely to Dak, I think that he's the guy. I think Garoppolo will carry a little bit more ownership over there. So I like the Hurts call.
What do you think about FanDuel, Tuttle? Are your quarterback takes similar both sites, or we're projecting Jalen Hurts for 10% on FanDuel on a 3-gamer.
Yeah, similar both sides. I do think Hurts is pretty clearly the best of the remaining options. If you're not paying up for Mahomes, Prescott, or Brady.
Okay. Let me get Discord back up here. FanDuel Cash with Fournette news. Is Mitchell a good pivot for FanDuel Cash? Christy, what are your thoughts?
I do. Yeah, I think Mitchell's a really good play actually for cash. So yep, I don't mind that at all.
Okay. Cash, Mitchell getting the volume, Tuttle. We talked about potentially fading him in tournaments. What do you think about Cash?
Yeah, I like him in cash. Again, he's the guy I would try to get to over Vaughn personally. I feel like I'm coming off way too strongly against Vaughn, and I don't think he's a terrible play, and it's going to come back and bite me. But I do prefer Mitchell over Vaughn.
Okay. Let's see. Mark, our guy Mark, thinks Kittle's going to have to stay in block quite a bit. Tuttle and I are on the same page. There you go.
There's your hand in the dirt take right there.
Yeah, I can't argue with it. I mean, it's possible. Kittle is one of the best blocking tight ends I've ever seen, so totally understand it. Let's see. Got a snap share KC question. It was almost an even split last week. Darrell Williams is questionable. Any warrant to go either Gore or McKinnon? What do you got? I mean, we have to, I guess, technically monitor the Williams news. The good thing is you can pivot down, worst case, to one of these other guys that back him up. I think McKinnon would be more involved. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. They like Gore. McKinnon 3 years ago got a huge deal. And well, Christy, you're from the Midwest. You probably have some strong takes one way or the other on Jerick McKinnon. So okay, let's say Darrell Williams doesn't play. Give me he doesn't play. Who do you go to, Gore or McKinnon? You're worried about the workload regardless.
Yeah, I know that is a tough call. They do seem to kind of prefer Gore, and he has been in there quite a bit. McKinnon's catching a little bit more passes. That's a tough call. I'd probably actually lean Gore on that one, but I think, they're both going to be options if Williams is out for sure.
Okay. What's your take on the Chiefs backfield total?
Just did a Twitter search and Darrell Williams tweeted, what a great day, or what a day to be great. So there you have it. He's playing for sure. If he is out, to answer your question, I'm a sucker for the pass catching backs. If I think the floor is low in general, so that would have me side McKinnon. But that would only be if Darrell Williams is out. The thing that we saw, so how they treated Tyreek last week, in terms of the heel injury, and then Darrell Williams with the toe, it almost feels like they were just being extra cautious on those guys, and that they're not really super serious injuries. So I'm not overly concerned personally about Darrell Williams, and I think he's pretty easily the best RB play on the slate. If that read is wrong though, I would do McKinnon if Darrell Williams is out.
FanDuel large field, is Ayuk viable, or will the pass rush affect Jimmy and pocket time? I mean, it's tough to predict the hand in the dirt thing, but I will say, playing devil's advocate to the pass rush, Shanahan might be the best offensive game planner. He's found ways to get his playmakers the ball. And we saw Debo do a total, Cordell Patterson, if you will, and be super effective. His script is second to none. After that script, like I said, I don't know. I think Ayuk is fair regardless. Debo's getting more snaps in the backfield, and I'm not sure that the pocket time will affect Ayuk specifically. I think Ayuk's a pretty fair price in a game we kind of like. So regardless, I think he's fine for any kind of tournament format. Christy, thoughts on Brandon Ayuk?
Yep. That's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, he is priced down there where he is, he doesn't have to do a whole lot to meet value. And there's certainly upside. He's gotten between, 5 and 7 targets the last few games with a touchdown in there too. So yeah, I like him quite a bit, and definitely think he should be in your mix, and wouldn't be afraid to, even go a little bit overweight on him just because of his price point.
Ayuk for you, total?
Yeah, completely okay with Ayuk.
Okay. Are we taking the double tight end build in a FanDuel GPP? I have plenty of double tight ends on both sites. Christy, I know you play a lot of FanDuel. Is that where you do?
Yep, I do. And I have 5 lineups, I think, over there today, and I have double tight end in 3 of them. So yeah, I like that build a lot today.
Are you worried about the uniqueness, Tuttle? There's is that cross your mind, or are we still in the contrarian threshold of the public eye here?
With what?
With the dual tight end take? Are you worried about that not being unique? Or
I mean, I don't think it's going to be super unique. I mean, we have really if you just look at it from who the best, if you just classify them as receivers, essentially, Gronk and Kelsey are 2 of the best receiving options on the board. So I don't think it's going to be super unique like we would typically see on a main slate or a bigger slate by any stretch. But I mean, we'll be different still than normal line of construction.
Speaking of Ayuk, let's stay right there, Tuttle. Ayuk or Wilson for FanDuel cash? Let me get the pricing and ownership up here.
Cash, I think it's Ayuk.
Yeah.
I like said Wilson a lot, but I think cash, it's Ayuk.
For cash, exactly right. Yeah, they're $100 apart, I think, 61 and 6K.
Yeah, I'm with you. Both look to be pretty low owned. Ayuk projects slightly better, and I guess volume wise, he might be a little safer in a low volume attack, but still just with his role. I think I agree with you guys. I think it's Ayuk for me as well. I don't know. I guess just open ended strategy wise, 3 games. Tuttle, I'll throw it over to you. Like smaller slates, we're used to 11, 12 game main slates, or typically playing showdowns or something like that during the regular season. What are you prone? Are you prone to do anything completely differently than your usual process on these small slates? I find myself overstacking, and I know we have some articles about small slates and top 0.1% finishes. And if you get a game right, you get a game right kind of thing. It's not the safest and happiest thing to do before lock, but I've overstacked quite a bit today.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I will say another thing that is completely obvious, but still, like, our brain is wired differently to do on these smaller slates. We still don't like doing it, but 2-3 guys against your defense is completely fine. 4 is potentially even ends up optimal on some slates. So like in lineup HQ, if you're building lineups, I wouldn't just limit it at 1 offense versus defense or anything like that. I have mine personally set at 4. Obviously that's very unlikely to happen, but there are spots where, if the defense allows a lot of points, but randomly gets a lucky touchdown, completely still in play. So it's hard for our brain to like look at lineups and be like, wait, I have 3 guys against this defense, but completely fine on these small slates.
I would also maybe, I was going to say, you talked a little bit about CeeDee Lamb and being popular and uncomfortable. Yesterday we kind of saw that too with T. Higgins being insanely popular and completely busted, just 1 catch. So, don't be afraid to just, don't play Lamb, in your tournaments and find something different. And we saw that too with tight ends yesterday too, with Waller carrying a lot of ownership and Knox really being the play. So yeah, I like in tournaments just getting a little bit weird and, maybe even, not playing Lamb at all and doing something completely different.
Okay. Yappy's got a question. 12:57, by the way, guys. So start wrapping up. DKGPP, if you're pivoting off Vaughn and I have a lot of Williams, is it okay to play McKinnon and Williams in the same lineup, or do you prefer Gio? Good question, Yappy. Good question. On 3 games, I think more times than not, anything goes, and who am I to tell you either way? But I've been warming up to the idea that hand in the dirt or whatever you want to call it, that Gio's going to get some burn today. So I'm partial to, I think I'm partial to Gio rather than playing both Chiefs running backs. Just my take. What are you guys' thoughts? Tuttle, Christy, go ahead.
Yeah, I would definitely go with Gio there.
Yep, same. I would too. And he's almost min price. So I think he's a good play.
I got a good one for you. Same price point, same team. Najee or Deontay Johnson, or does one work better in another format? What are your thoughts between those 2 Steelers for the late night hammer tonight? Christy, I'll go over to you first.
Oh, that's a really good one. I think I would actually go Deontay on that one. I like them both, and they're both going to get obviously a lot of touches and run, but I think I'd go Deontay for upside.
Okay. Tuttle, any thoughts there?
Yeah, Deontay. I find myself taking stances I don't really like. But like, why is nobody like this dude dislocated his elbow last week, Najee Harris? And it seems like everybody's like, oh, he's not on the injury report. It's good. He's obviously playing. Then yeah, he's obviously playing. But I mean, if I dislocate my elbow, I know I'm not Najee Harris, but I'm not doing anything for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Like he's going to be it's reasonable to expect him to be limited at least some extent, and nobody seems to be taking that stance. And I think he's going to be owned. And I hate fading running backs. I could potentially see 30 touches, but the guy dislocated his elbow last week. That happened.
Yeah. And speaking of Pittsburgh, I think nobody's talking about Freiermuth, like direct pivot of Goddard, Chalk, who's in a great spot. But if Goddard fails and Freiermuth, that's, so you could put together a very similar build with Freiermuth there in that late game where we think the Steelers will probably be playing catch up, which I agree. Which if Najee's limited, like Ben's going to have to lean on Deontay, Freiermuth, like Juju could pay off that min price tag. But like, do I think he's going to play gun to head? Do I think Juju plays 50% of the snaps? No. Do I think he's out there for like 30% of the snaps? Yeah. then again, he's in a contract year, and what does Pittsburgh care? Like, they're not going to probably bring him back anyway. So go ahead, get out there, right? I don't know. It's that last game on Pittsburgh side is so unique, and we really haven't talked about anything outside of Najee and Deontay, and we hit 1 o'clock lock, by the way, guys. So thanks for sticking with us. Any last thoughts, Tuttle, before we get out of here?
Give me 10 points, Gio. That's all I need. 10 points. Let the other running backs score under 20, and we're set. We're good to go.
Yeah, I have a couple Gio shares myself. We'll see. Christy, anything else before we pack it up?
No, I'm kind of the same way. I hope Gio has a big game, and yeah, it could be a good day for all of us. So yeah, thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, I actually ended up with no Vaughn. So
I like it though. I do.
We'll see what happens.
I think he's a good. If he was gonna, I'm constantly refreshing, trying to get ownership here, to see if my read was right on Vaughn. If he gets up to like 50% and higher stake stuff.
Okay, well, I'll stick here for a second with you. I'm looking. I'm in the power sweep, so I'm curious to see.
Yeah, I keep refreshing the Wildcat here, because I think. I mean, again, I don't feel awesome about making the stance, but if Vaughn is 50% owned, I do really like that fade personally.
Absolutely.
Let's see where he comes in.
I don't know. DraftKings always.
Oh, here we go.
Slow to update. Oh, you got something?
Oh, I thought I did. My blips turned green, and I thought that was the ticket, but you're right. The algorithms are exploding. Anyway, we will head out. Here we go. I got it. Let's see.
I got it too now. No, I was wrong. 38% in the Wildcat for Vaughn.
Okay.
38. Okay.
So we were pretty spot on. Good job, Jamino, on ownership.
Yeah.
Ooh, Gronk 52% in the power sweep on DK.
Is he really?
Yeah, 42 in the Wildcat. Gio at 5.7%. I'll take that all day.
Absolutely.
Goddard 35, Mike Evans 28, Bucks D 21, Brady 15, Devontae 15, Hurts 15.
Okay.
Tyler Johnson's low owned. Yeah. Tyler Johnson's 8%. I think that's a pretty decent play.
For sure. A lot of hits there for ownership. Gronk, I mean, good spot, volume. I get it. You know, I have a couple of shares, but it's like now all of a sudden I'm glad I'm underweight on Gronk a little bit. Although I really thought the play was, in hindsight, I thought the play is, I like the spot a lot, Christy, but now it's like, man, I thought we were coming in a little bit. Do you have FanDuel by any chance?
I'm just trying to get it. Yeah, I can't get the ownership on that. I've got it pulled up. It's not
all good.
Oh, they do the thing where it's frustratingly until like the game actually kicks off.
Exactly. I know. So yeah, I don't have that yet. So shoot.
Okay. All good. Thanks for checking. Appreciate it. But always a pleasure kicking off Super Wildcard weekend. Eli, thanks again for producing the show, and thank you all for hanging out in our Discord with us. And let's win some money, guys. Hopefully our takes helped you out a little bit. Best of luck. Enjoy football. Enjoy the rest of your week. Stay well, and see you later.